Hello folks, what I'm going to be doing today is a guide with regard to subs. I'm going to keep it very basic, what I use them for. I found when I first started the game, what ended up happening is I didn't even know how to attack them. But as time progressed, I got better at them and I started using them more effectively within the game itself, Warplan. The sub itself, if you take a look at it, each one of these units, so a particular unit is about 15 submarines. So when you're looking at 3 of them in a wolf pack here, you're looking at 45 subs attacking within a particular area. So I want to talk about some basic rules first. First of all, when you create your wolf pack, you can only really have 3 groupings or 3 groups of subs. If I go to try to move them out of port, you're going to find that there's a maximum of 3 submarines may be selected at a particular time to actually move out. Now I have more than 9 fleets of subs there. I've got 10 of them, so even when I go to try to move out with all 10 of them, the maximum for naval is that you can only have 9 fleets in a particular hex, 3 for submarines, so keep that in mind. The next thing that I need to point out is the mode of the submarine itself. One of the primary purposes of a submarine is to attack convoy lanes, and to be able to attack convoy lanes, the fleet would want to avoid normal combat and just attempt to create havoc on the convoy lanes themselves. So when you take a look at all fleets in Warplan here, you're going to find, and you can see it on the top here, this icon here, this is fleet mode. In fleet mode, any naval counter is actively searching for other fleets. They're looking for a fight. They want to intercept. But if you change this and you go into raider mode, which is usually what you have subs in, what ends up happening is in raider mode, the fleet is purposely avoiding combat. Excuse me. It doesn't want to be found. It wants to use hit and run tactics and cause damage to the convoy lanes, supply, which I'm going to show you. So let's take a look and move a sub out. So when I look at a sub, I'm going to zoom in. You can see here with the sub itself, there are 2 dots on the screen. The 2 dots represent operation points, so that means it can do 2 things this turn. It can attack and move. It can move its full range of 24 hexes out of all of it, or if it's in position already, it can attack twice. So keep that in mind. That's what the operation points do. What I'm going to do is I'm in raider mode now, so all the ships are going to be in raider mode here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to one of the convoy lanes. The way you can tell a convoy lane is by the little transport icons that are in the ocean. Those little icons there represent the traffic of merchant marine shipping delivering resources from other countries. Those resources are then converted into production points, and you can build things with those production points. That is for another guide. So I just want to use my maximum amount of movement here, so I won't be able to attack this turn. I'm going to right mouse click on this particular hex, and what will end up happening is my sub has now moved into a convoy lane to create havoc like they did in real life during World War II in the North Atlantic. I'm going to do this same again. I'm going to move the next group out here, and I'm going to move it to the North Atlantic route. You can actually see the name of the route itself by moving the mouse cursor on the route and keeping the mouse cursor there. What you could do is read on the bottom left hand side of your screen that that route is actually called the North Atlantic route. The route below it is the South Atlantic, and I'm going to take 3 subs and I'm going to move them in raider mode again to the South Atlantic route. As you can see with the mouse in position over that. It shows 0 resources because I don't control that route. But from the point of view of Germany, I can see here when I go and move my mouse cursor over the Nordic Iron route, it's providing 1 resource, and the Baltic route is providing 27 resources. If I want to see the routes a little bit more clearly, I can hit the trade convoy, and you can see the routes themselves defined. Even Italy has a route itself out of all of it. So this example so far shows the primary purpose for subs. The primary purpose in Warplan for subs is to attack the convoy trade route. The best way to achieve that is to place your subs in raider mode and then place them on the convoy route themselves. In raider mode, they're harder to detect and they're not looking for a fight. Now, what do I mean by that? They're not looking for a fight. Well, let's take a sub and let's change the mode of it to fleet mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that sub and I'm going to move it near my other subs here. In particular, I'm going to put it on the convoy lane, but it will not raid convoys. What it's doing is it's searching for other vessels within the area. So what does this mean? Well, all naval vessels do this in fleet mode, but I want to concentrate on subs today. If we take a look at a 5 hex radius, so counting out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so about here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 about here. Anything that falls, any ship that stops within that range, this particular sub in fleet mode, remember these are in raider mode, and the raider modes won't react, but the sub that's in fleet mode will react and try to intercept any ship or fleet that comes into that particular zone. Now, what do I mean by that? It won't intercept a sub, but any surface vessel. Let's see this in action. I'm now going to move into my next turn here. So remember, the primary purpose that I have for subs at this point in time is to attack the convoy lane. Now, from the British point of view, you don't want that to actually happen, because when you look at your production screen here, you have, okay, definitely in this particular scenario, some merchant marines to give here because you're only using 162. But if this number here was to fall below 162, what would end up happening is your production value would fall also. So keep that in mind. Since I've created this scenario with no units except for the naval units, I'm just concentrating on what subs can do and can't do out of all of it. So my subs are in a really good location. Now, how to attack subs in the deep blue sea? Well, this is number one that you need to realize. In ocean, you can only attack from carrier aircraft or from land-based aircraft. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move within interception range of one sub, but attack range of the other subs in the area. And let's see what happens. So notice the sub that was in fleet mode tried to actually intercept my carrier force that fell within the 5 hex range. Now normally I wouldn't do that in a game because I like to keep my submarines in raider mode because they're less detectable. So when I take a look at this, I can see, looking at the top portion of my screen here, that I'm at a very low recon level. I don't know what the sub fleet is actually comprised of. So in this situation here, I'm in very deep waters. As you move closer to the coast of England, you'll find that the recon level goes higher, but out in the deep blue sea, The recon level is low. So what does that mean? Well, that means that it's going to be very hard to find, and if it's hard to find, you're not going to be able to attack it or engage the enemy. But with aircraft, I can attack, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to attack this one here, and to attack it I just move my cursor over it. It reads carrier strike, and now I'm just going to right mouse click, and what ends up happening is I didn't engage anything, but what I did do was spot the fleet. Now when I click on it and I can take a look at the recon level, the recon level gives me a little bit more information. It's not perfectly accurate. It tells me that there's 4 subs in the area, but the recon level is low. I want to get this up as high as possible so that this way I can perform an attack. But just like all the other naval vessels, I was only given 2 operational points, and one of the operational points was used to basically move out to be able to attack. Now, what caused a lot of confusion for me, especially in the early game, is I used to take my fleets and I would move them next to my unit here with 1 operational point left. So you can see the fleet that was within the 5 hex range, the sub intercepted. I can check the combat reports, so you can see that it has intercepted it. With 1 operational point, what I would do is I would try to attack a sub. And I found out that, wait a minute, how do you go about attacking subs? Well, like I mentioned before, only in the deep ocean air units can attack subs. So I would have to either use a land-based aircraft or a carrier unit. And I like taking my carrier units out with a battle group here, just in case there's a fleet out there that wants to intercept me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move away from the 5 hex interception rate, but be within 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranges to be able to attack. So you can see it did not intercept me. And this is in the deep ocean too, so again it's low recon level, so my chances of getting a hit are above 5%. And notice nothing happened out of all of it. Now, as I mentioned before, aircraft in the deep blue sea is used to attack submarines. So that means land-based aircraft can attack them too, and they just need to be set up that way. So to be set up that way, all you need to do is click on the naval bomb icon on the top left here, and once you do that, what will end up happening is the fleets will highlight and you can go out there and bomb. I'm going to attack the surface one because it was actually identified before, and you can see out in the ocean it's very difficult to engage the enemy itself. In fact, when you look at the reports themselves, it basically tells you you couldn't find anything. So the game does a great job representing naval battles, especially in the deep ocean, that they're going to be very difficult to spot. And again, the game does a great job in that air was one of the key elements for destroying naval ships in the European theater, and also the Pacific when you take a look at it. And again, just to kind of recap, if you take a surface vessel and you go to try to attack a sub, so again, I'm hoping to be out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, and when I go to attack, I can't do it. Moving forward now. Since my German subs didn't have any operation points at the time, they couldn't attack the convoy lane. All they did was move out there. So when I go to check the reports, there's no information with regard to the destruction of any escorts. I can even check here under casualties, and I see that the merchant marines are 0 and the escorts are 0. They just did not do an attack. But when I take a closer look now, they do have 2. So this turn here, they're going to be able to attack. Now, one of the things that you're going to find is, and strategy wise, is it's best not to leave your subs in this particular location, because if you think about it, the carriers are going to be able to do 2 attacks on them. and you only get one attack on a convoy lane even though you have 2 operational points. So what I do is I try to move the sub and keep it in the lane away from air units. So in this case I need to be 5 units away, so 1 2 3, so 1 2 3 4 5 is about here. So if I go to this one here, then I should be out of range. 1 2 3 4 5, I should be out of range out of all of it. Same with this one. I'm just going to go further down the line here and get out of range here. This particular one unit, I'm going to go a little crazy. I'm going to go near the coast here to show you how the ID level changes and how much easier it is to actually sink it. I'm even going to go into, actually let's do an undo. Let's go into raider mode first. I think with a new patch coming up, you won't be able to do that in sea. You'll have to do that in a port, so you'll have to keep that in mind once this is patched up. This one here again was on both of them. I'm just going to move down a little bit. 1 2 3 4 5 6, and again the idea behind it is move 1 operational point but away from the carriers so that they have to use an operation point to hunt you down. Okay, now the main purpose of subs is to attack the convoy lanes, but a second purpose of subs is to actually blockade a port and prevent it from getting supplies. So when I take a look at Malta here, even though I'm on the German turn here, I know that the port size is 5. 5 times 20, for each port size you get 20 supply. This port should get 100 supply points. Well, I'm going to reduce that by using subs. You can have them in fleet mode or you could have them in surface mode. I can only have a group of 3, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 3 and I'm going to go about 2 hexes. You can be 2 hexes or 1 hex away. It might even be 3, but I'm not 100% sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them with 1 operational point here, and what they're going to do is they're going to blockade any supplies that are coming in. They won't be able to do all of them, so there'll be food and some things that will get through. And just for fun, I know that this is a 3-5 unit, so it'll be interesting if I can cause any damage with air. And of course I don't think I will. And just to kind of look at another functionality of what subs can do. So again, these subs, their purpose is to block supply that is going into a port. These subs are raiding the merchant shipping that are bringing resources into the UK out of all of them. Those are the two. I find that raiding the convoys is the main purpose for sub. This sub over here that I have is a silly sub that's wandered near our coast just to prove a point. I would never do this in a game itself. So now I'm going to go into the UK turn. Oh, actually before I do that, I want to take 1 destroyer and I want to move it out here because I want to show that subs can attack. And I would never do this either, by the way, during the game. Moving to the UK turn now, we can actually see the sub attacks. So you can see that in total, it looks like they've done really well. It looks like 4 and 4 is 8, plus 8 is 16, 19 merchant marines were sunk, and it looks like 0 escorts were sunk. But you notice also too, the top line says supply convoy 160-121 destroyed 95, so that means the subs, the Italian subs, and again you can see it through the icons here on your top right here, so I can click on that and it'll take me to where the port interdiction is. If I click on it and look at the bottom left here, so looking at the bottom left, I could see that I've destroyed 95 supply resources. So this particular unit is not getting the supplies that it wants. And it's a way of actually reducing the flow of supplies into the unit so you can kill it off if you need to. Now, the best thing is a land invasion, which is not part of this particular guide, but I can do that in another guide. But just wanted to show you that another another use of subs are that you can actually stop port supply from being delivered. Excuse me. So in other words, you're creating a blockade. And again, the other primary purpose is that you're attacking the convoy lanes. So now you notice here it's the British turn, and to move into position, the carriers have to use one OP, and that gives me only one chance to attack. So this is a good axis strategy if you want to only limit the amount of British attacks. And you can see because of it, nothing comes of it. Now, once again, because I have range here, my air-based, land-based aircraft can also attack. But again, being in the ocean, it's very difficult to find your submarines, and they're effectively doing damage. Now, remember, as I mentioned in the before, that when you're dealing with submarines, as long as they're away from the coast, what ends up happening is the surface fleets cannot attack them. But what happens when they are near a coast? Well, remember, this is in raider mode, so it wouldn't be in reaction mode. But now you notice the unit is highlighted because it's near a coast and not in the open ocean. It can't dive. So what ends up happening is surface vessels can now attack it. So I can bring in surface vessels. So if it's near a coast, in other words, all 7 hexes aren't ocean hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 6 side hexes aren't ocean. What ends up happening is surface vessels can attack. But that's not to say that we can't also have land-based air units attack. Once again, changing it into bomb naval, I can then attack with air. And as I mentioned before, air is a lot more effective than when you're dealing with naval combat. In fact, air is the most effective. Now, dealing with subs in their attack, if I want to attack a ship itself, remember fleet mode is the way to go because I'm looking for a fight. This sub is in fleet mode. Notice I do not have to be next, so subs do not have to be beside the actual fleet you're attacking. You have to be within 5, but you don't have to be beside. So I'm going to move this, use one operational point to move the fleet within range itself. And now this sub can turn around and attack this particular group or fleet. In this case, all it did was increase its recon level and did not perform the attack. So in fleet mode, that is when it's on the surface, you can attack other ships. In raider mode you cannot, but in fleet mode you can attack other ships, which is another thing subs can do. So it can attack convoy lanes, it can attack fleets in fleet mode, and it can create port blockades, being a couple hexes next to or adjacent to the port icon to prevent units from gaining supply and gaining strength. The thing that I warn you of is be very careful, especially with when you're doing port blockades here, because you're near a coast here. When you're near a coast, subs can be attacked by surface fleet and also air units, whereas in the deep sea they can only be attacked by air units or air units on carriers themselves. So that means surface fleets, like I mentioned before, will not be able to attack subs themselves in raider mode. Hopefully this guide has showed you some of the things that subs can do and made the game a little bit more enjoyable for you. Have yourself a great day. Thank you. Bye now.